Here we go, opening up the grinder for cleaning. We take off the grind chamber as usual. We unscrew the adjuster. So put the handle on, hold it, then just unscrew the adjuster. Very easy to do, and there it is. Take off the grind scale. There it is. Put them that way up. Next, remove the handle, allow the burr to slide out. There it is with its little spring. And you notice this spring isn't sided, but I'm going to put it the way up that it came out of the grinder just to be sure. And then you have your burr and you have the shaft. Now, take the bottom, screw it the reverse direction. This now comes out. There it is. And this is got a circlip on it. Now, of course, if you do need to give it a really good clean, and it's possible you will, this central shaft here, is a circlip to stop it going down, but you can push your thumb on there, give it a good push. You might have to push quite hard because it's a very tight fit, and you can withdraw the central shaft, and this is like a bearing cover on the top. Now, bear in mind that although you heard it squeak, you'd have heard it squeak slightly. That's because this shaft is meant to be a tight fit in that center, because the actual bearing itself is what rotates. This shaft should stick in the center of the bearing as it does. So that's the cap that you mustn't forget to put on top of the bearing. And you can see there's a little rim there. That goes rim downwards, okay, onto the bearing, not rim upwards, which would be the wrong way to have this fitted. Like I say, it's a fairly stiff push. You don't need to really lubricate that shaft because they're not. You can lubricate the shaft if you wanted to go in and out easily, but you don't need to lubricate it because you're thinking, oh, it's hard to get. It's not spinning freely. That spinning is held by the bearing. The lubrication might just make it easier to pull the shaft in and out. Okay, so that's your shaft, that's the whole grinder. And now if you want to get a toothbrush in there, give it a really good clean, you obviously can. And there's another bearing cap on the bottom, which had just come off as I brushed it. Let's just give it a bit more brushing. I can brush the coffee from the bearing. We're going to put the grinder back together. These bearing caps, important, put them in raised rim towards the bearing, slide in the shaft. So that's now in. The bottom bearing cap is here, and that'll go in raised rim towards the bearing. But what we're going to do first is take the top rim and the thread there, remembering the thread goes in the opposite direction to what you're normally used to tighten that up. Okay, make sure that's nice and tight. Then slide the bearing cap down on the shaft. Slide the spring onto the shaft and bearing cap. Then you might find it easier to get this on. Now, I found in this grinder it fits one way better than the other, and they're up, that's snapped on. That's the scale onto the bottom of the burr, and then we line up the square hole in the square shaft best we can by getting that on. And you can see I can push that down, and that's lined up through there. Hold that down with my fingers, and I'll do it this way so you can see. Take the adjuster and put the adjuster on the thread, keep some pressure on, and if you can, just try and, there's not much room, but if you can, try and spin the adjuster on a little bit just to catch the threads first. My fingers are not quite big enough to allow that, which is a shame, so I'm going to have to hold that on, put the handle in and stop the shaft turning that way. That's it, and then make sure it's not cross-threaded. Just screw the adjuster on, and that's it, a full turn. I forgot to count how many turns, but I think it's about 1 turn gets you into French press, but you'll find out anyway. And that's the grinder put back together as usual. Just spin it, make sure there's no odd noises showing that you haven't assembled it correctly. Pop the base on, and you're ready to go. This brush was from the more expensive grinders, but as I said, I didn't want to get the other brush dirty as it's never been used.